Hello everyone. Hi, I'm Jayavardhan Raju. I go by Jay. I'm a Salesforce application architect with over 15 years in building scalable enterprise solutions. And today I'm here to talk about an Agentforce Grid feature for one of the real world use cases in the pharma industry. So let's talk about a real problem in industries like healthcare or pharmacy retail. Inventory transfer isn't just logistics, it's compliance, timing, and the risk. So I mean a bad decision can mean regulatory violations, the expired medications, or simply no out of stock when no stock when it matters most. So the question here is, can Salesforce think all through this complexity? This is where Agentforce Pharma Grid comes in. It's not just automation, it's decision intelligence embedded directly into your Salesforce UI. Let me walk you through six scenarios here. And before we dive into those scenarios, there are a few terms you will hear about it. You can say those are called as decision parameters. The first one, which you see on the screen here, is called as an IST. IST is nothing but like interstore transfer. You can say like simply moving medication from one pharmacy location to another. Second one is the safety stock. That is the minimum amount of medicine a store must have on hand. If they go below this, the system flags it as a low stock. The third one here is the DEA Schedule 2. So these are highly regulated drugs like Adderall. Because they are strictly controlled, the system has a hard stop. It will never move them automatically. Fourth one here is the cold chain. So this refers to medicines that must stay refrigerated, like insulin or Manjaro. The system checks if the delivery and the receiving stores both have fridges. And the final one here is the transfer log and a record of every transfer for the DA to see later for reference. Okay, now that we went through all these terms, let's go through the six scenarios, starting with the first scenario, which is called as the happy path, where a store is out of stock. The system identifies the best possible source, filtered by capability like cold chain handling, and recommends a transfer. This is a simple and easy one. And the second scenario here we have the schedule to compliance block. This is for like controlled substances, for example, like Adderall. These are like normally these are used for ADHD medications for treatment. Here, the system doesn't just suggest you; it stops you when accidentally if somebody clicks on transfer, it presents them with an compliance block. Is So no human error or is involved here. So the third one is the no source available. What if no store has surplus? Instead of failing silently, the system recommends a fallback distributor order so that it adapts actually. Fourth scenario here we have is the expiry based filtering. Here's where intelligence, you can say, like really quick kicks in. So one store has an inventory, but it's about to expire. Another has a longer shelf life. The system excludes the risky option and chooses the optimal one. Here, store A is expiring soon, and store B. So store B would be chosen, and the transfer of the medications would happen. Coming to the fifth scenario here is the schedule for allowed transfers. So not all controlled substances are blocked. These are some of the rules which are defined, right? So for schedule 4 drugs like Xanax, so which are normally anxiety based drugs, the system understands the rules and allows the transfer. And the final one here for today, we have the multiple source optimization. Now imagine multiple valid sources are there where we can transfer. The system doesn't just pick randomly, it selects the best one based on the quantity and efficiency. That's like optimization, not an automation. So that now we went through all the six scenarios. Uh, Let me show you how this actually works in action. Okay. Let's go to the Salesforce screen. Here we have the QR code where you can scan and navigate to the repo for the use case of this. So once you choose this repo, you would be coming to uh, on this one where this use case repo is there as I mentioned. In the documentation of this repo, you can click on this link to find it. And once you come into the documentation, there is a link called as live launch live demo. So this is one thing which I would mention is additionally you can get it from this repo. Is if you want to try this out, there are few things which you can fill this form about, and you would be provisioned your own scratcher where this whole code would be deployed, and also the scenarios and the demo data which is needed is seeded into the environment for the scratcher which is created. It will take about like 10 to 15 minutes for the scratcher creation once this process is kicked in. So give your GitHub username and fork my repository, and you would get your own version of the fork URL, and you can put in there. And then this is the devhub auth URL, and how to get this devhub auth URL. You can execute these instructions and then click on launch demo. You can choose like how many days you want your scratch org to be uh, there valid. So once you submit this form, the process would run. And if you want, like, you can see this actions tab here. You would the particular action would be kicked in, and you would be provisioned the org. Once you receive the email, you would be having the login URL, username, passwords, and this is the demo data list view, the inventory transfer ops. And I have this GIF which is created on the fly. So that uh, demo data which has been seeded, and after that there is one step of like prompt builder. So right now there is no metadata available where we can directly deploy the prompt template. So we have to prompt builder template, so we have to manually create it. So I have automated that step also, you don't need to do anything. So even the activation step is taken care. So this is just like I've just created what all things would happen as a GIF, just for your reference purpose. And you can click on this, it will take you to this. Okay, so this org is not, there is some Salesforce maintenance issue, but ideally it would go into that particular list view actually. Okay, so let's jump into this use case, the scenarios which we went previously, right? Six scenarios. We have like a test data setup. So it has been summarized here. So for each medication, what is the expectation of like when an operations manager initiates it, what is the outcome of it, and what is the target source, and the source would be how much quantity would be transferred, and what is the, if there is any another scenario, how it is being handled. So let's quickly jump into the first scenario here. It says merger of IMG, and this is the happy path scenario. And there are some requirements as like the quantity, the safety sec is 50 should be minimum, and the need is 50. And here, before we come into this, the quantity and how it is being calculated. So if you come to this link section here, architecture transfer engine, we can go through this examples of worked example 1, 2, and 3, just to understand how, based on how the uh, quantity is being calculated. So whenever agent initiates an action actually. Okay, so okay, so I have to configure the grid. Okay, let's quickly configure the Agentforce-Pharma grid. So when we come into the Salesforce on our mail, from where you will navigate, let me walk you through from there. So you will, let's close this all. We have a separate app called Agentforce Grid. So this is where you will come and navigate. You'll come to the home tab here. You can configure this tab to add the transfer logs as well. Edit and edit. I've added it here. And right now I've created like uh, going back to home. So I've created one grid called as inventory transfer ops, where you can create it with that name and whatever name you want and description. And once you click on it, this is the grid which I was showing earlier. Yeah, for this use case, I'll be creating that Agentforce-Pharma grid. So let's select the inventory position object and the fields and select all of them, save and run. A few seconds while it retrieves this one, and let's left click on it, and then you'll find the JSON. Just add the columns which are needed one by one. So I'll be adding the medication name first, and then followed by store name. Let's add safety stock, quantity, expiry date, and status color. If there are like more records, it would be a visual indicator would be helpful for the operations manager. So I'd be creating one column called as status color, and I would be using the model Omni Mini here. I tried with Omni, there were some inconsistencies, and this is like better. So I'll be choosing based on status color. And the response format, I would be making it a single select. Let's add the labels. So green, I would be adding as green. Okay, I don't need this one. I'm just matching the same colors as I want to appear in the UI. Then I need red. It comes. Okay, so let's save and run this. Okay, now let's add the recommendation column, which is the prompt template. So enter store transfer inventory recommendation. Okay, let's choose that. And passing this, for this we need the record ID, inventory record ID for this. I just copied from the other column there, so I don't have to type it. So we are just passing the inventory position record. Let's click save and run. So as and when the operations manager comes to this Agentforce-PharmaGrid, he will be seeing the color code and what is the recommendation, what he needs to act upon is mentioned in this column exactly. So the output is JSON. Let's add this one as a new column so it would be visible. So let's wrap this one here so that the entire text is visible. So now I'll be adding the invocable action itself, where the operations manager would be using it to transfer the quantities between the stores. So I'll just name it as transfer optimize. Let's pick the execute interest store transfer, and here I would be choosing just this as true for now. And the reason is when I click on at that moment from the grid, imagine that at that point of time the action should be initiated. So I'll just leave. I will not click save and run because it would execute now for all the rows. So I'll just click save for now. So this is the view where, like, operations manager would see when he comes to the Agentforce-Pharma grid. And for, let's walk through all the setup and the columns are configured. Let's jump through the scenario. Oh, we have the first scenario where I was saying about the happy path. This is the store and the target medication and the need. We have like the cold chain is required, the need is 50 and the safety stock is 50. The closest which would match for this is two of them, CVS Westside SF and Oakland. But cold chain is required, but we don't have cold chain available for this store, so it would choose the CVS SF one. Okay. Pretty simple. This is the happy path scenario. Let's quickly see this in action right now. So let me go ahead and click this arrow button here next to it. It take few seconds for the action to execute. Sometimes might have to click couple of times. Seems strange. Okay, let's try it once more. I'll double click it. Okay, so now I see this is executed and the transfer has been initiated. Okay, let's quickly add this output, which I have. I'll be adding this as a separate column and the quantity which would be transferred. So this is the one. So I'll be adding these two columns. So let's wrap this column as well here. And you see this one, the 5 mg Manjaro medication has been transferred from the CVS West Side to CVS Downtown. Okay, let's check this in action. I'm be going into the transfer logs. Just refreshing the page. Okay. Okay, I was looking at this Agentforce Grid and why these output is showing as 0. So I found this one. If you remember, I tried to click 3 times. So what it did is in the backend, it created 3 records. In the first record, the transfer is successfully created, and you can go back and check. Uh, let's check the inventory position record. Here you see like 50 is the quantity being updated. So this completes the happy path scenario. Let's quickly go into the second scenario here. So Adderall XR 30 mg. So this is where there are some sort of medications which are classified as 1, 2, 3, and 4 schedule. And for schedule 2 drugs, there is some additional process in place where the transfer manager just clicking on it couldn't transfer. So this is one of the uh, DEA compliance rule. So in order to enforce it, just in case the operations manager accidentally clicks on transfer, we have a system in process in place where it would be blocked and the transfer is not initiated. Let's quickly check this in action. Going back to the Agentforce Grid. So Adderall XR30 mg, we have the another store also with the same medication. But when I click on the transfer here, we shouldn't be allowed to proceed the transfer. It should just reflect you have been blocked, and since it is a compliance. Yeah, I found this one also. Sometimes you might have to click multiple times the action for the this to kick in. Maybe that would get improved over the period of time, since it is a pretty new feature from Salesforce. Okay, let's try once more. Okay, I'll just show it in the other worksheet here, which I've already done the same exact scenario. So this is the compliance restriction message which user would be getting. Okay, so this completes the second scenario. Let's go into the third scenario. So this one, as the quantity is like 0 and the safety stock is 60 and the need is 60. This is on the quantity column calculation. But if you see the CVS website, it has only 30 units, but the need is 60 units. So because of this, and rest all doesn't have any of these medications, any of these stores, so it is not needed, not insufficient. So this would not be any transfer would not be initiated, and it would go back to a separate process where a distributor fallback recommendation would be uh, shown to the operations manager. Let's see this in action. Yeah, this is the one. Lisinopril 10 mg. This is red. Says let's click on it. Okay. It's taking some time to reflect here. Yeah, you see the output here. It says no suitable source in the distributed network, and you should manage contact the district manager to expedite the distributor order. Okay, this completes the third scenario. Let's go into the fourth scenario. This is one like Ozempic 1 mg for medication. So where we have the need and the stock is for 35 and 40 respectively. We have two stores which we can match actually, but one of the expiry date is 15 days and another is more than that. So the system which is designed here, it would pick the one which has the medication for a longer duration of time. It would choose the CVS Westside SF, Let's see this one in action. Okay, Ozempic, CVS Central, and let's click on it, and it would choose from CVS West Side SF. Yeah, you see this one, the CVS West Side SF. Let's quickly check the transfer logs. So you see this 30 quantity has been transferred from the source to the target, which is the expiry date, which is for a longer period of time. And you can check the quantity which is updated also by opening the corresponding inventory record. 35. Okay, so let's go to the scenario number 5. So which is for Xanax 0.5 mg schedule for allowed transfer. I was saying about like different schedules for medications, right? We have schedule 1, schedule 2, schedule 3, schedule 4. But here the scenario is even for medication of schedule 4, the transfer is allowed as well. So we're just going to click on this and see whether it will proceed. There is no block as such, whether only for schedule 2 we have the compliance gate block. For schedule 4 it should transfer successfully. Xanax 0.5 mg. Okay, and the transfer is completed, and you can see like the 30 units of 0.5 mg from the central to CVS East Side Oakland has been transferred. So this completes the fifth scenario. And coming to the last scenario of the demo, where we have like amoxicillin 500 mg, so where we have multiple sources. So there are multiple source store which is eligible for transfers, but the system which is here chooses the one which has more units here. So highest quantity wins. So that is the outcome. So let's validate this one. So amoxicillin 500 mg. I'm just going to click. Okay, let's check this one. Yeah, 50 units of amoxicillin has been transferred. So and so, let's verify the grid record here. Transfer log record. Here, 50 quantity has been transferred from the SF downtown to the CVS Sunnyvale target store. So this brings to the completion of all the scenarios which has been mentioned in the demo. And I hope you like this scenario. I just wanted to, instead of going through this scenario, just documenting, I thought it would be helpful for provisioning a scratch, or so whomsoever who wants to check this out or try this out, they can clone this. So I've just mentioned a process for it. Hopefully everyone will likes it who views it. And if you do like this one repo, you can give a like fork this one, and you can cite this repository as well. One request is from me, so that it would encourage me to do more of these use cases scenarios, walking through them. And uh, okay, so this is for it, and like thanks everyone, and I'll see you on the next one.